What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I am back over at the Race Engine Challenge dyno facility in Charlotte, North Carolina with Project Mixed Up Boss. Today is actually my birthday, and I couldn't ask for a better birthday present and then this thing delivering a ton of power. Where we left off had a total ignition system fail. We think we've got that straightened out. So I'm going to get to work of putting the distributor back in this thing, and then hopefully we will make some noise. All right, we got the distributor in. As you can see, it was a tight fit, but it's no tighter than it was with the other distributor. I think whenever I get the engine back home, I can pull the intake off and relieve the manifold a bit more. But simple 3-wire hookup, you really can't beat that. Power, ground, and the negative going to the coil. So we're going to go in here and get ready to see if we can make some noise with this beast. All right, fingers crossed, we're getting ready to make some noise with this thing. We got the distributor in there where it should be, and if we did our job right, it should crank right up, I hope. We had trouble with it earlier that wasn't on camera, getting the phasing right of the distributor. So I'm just going to set this over here. Alright. Plugs in, plugs tight. Oil is in.
Rock and roll.
Let's see
what you can do right away is you can just basically set the table from 22 to 26 over the RPM as long as you do the whole line.
Yeah.
You know? And then you can just set it right away if you want to.
Okay. Well, whenever we get it running, then I will come back in here and look at the mixture screw, you know, the idle mixture, and then I can go back and tweak on the carburetor to try to get it balanced out somewhat at idle.
Yeah.
All right, see if she'll crank up. But this sounds like music. All right, so we just did the initial run-in, no leaks, which is a good thing. So the blow-by meter is this silicone hose right here that runs up to that canister in the meter, which is really cool stuff, because if you try to do this stuff on a run stand, and we're going to talk about run stands at the end of this dyno session, you will never get measurements to actually know what your engine's actually doing as far as ring seal. Not only that, but you're creating a whole nother issue with ring seal, and like I said, we'll cover that as a follow-up. So tell us about this device here you've got for blow-by, because I've been promoting that thing pretty big on the live chat.
Yeah. So basically, that engine is breathing any kind of blow-by directly through that hose up there, and it's being picked up by the blow-by meter, and we have an indicator here that shows us how many CFM blow-by it has.
And so as the rings seat, that number value should come down.
Correct.
Okay.
So as you break in the engine and the rings keep seating and breaking in better and better, it will show less and less blow-by.
Now, one thing I wanted to point out too is, since this is a carbureted application, there's no TPS sensor on the carburetors to mount how far we're going with the throttle as far as load. So Dennis made a graduated line here to know that this is 50% throttle, and that's exactly wide open throttle. So we can kind of vary it when we're going through the RPM range, seating the rings. So like I said, the main thing is we don't have any kind of leaks or issues like that. So we're going to continue on. We'll start out 4 to go to 5,500 and see what.
Yeah, I would step it, yeah.
That way I know about the carburetor. If it does something funky, we know what we need to do.
So we start at 4 and go to 65 or 6,000?
Yeah, probably that'll be fine.
Or do you want to do 3,500 to 6,000?
Now let's start it at least 4 because it's got a 4,500 stall in it.
Okay,
you know,
so
it's
4,000 to 6,000.
What you think, Greg? Think it's gonna be all right? You just never know.
You just never know.
Alright, so that is on there. This is good. Let me actually...
Up there on that screen is the NOx sensor and how it reads. So if we start getting into detonation, what would that look like on there?
Well, you know, we still have to set up, you know, when you revved it up, I don't know if we've set a baseline yet.
No, I mean, that we don't have a baseline here because we don't have that RPM range, you know, so it just shows pretty much the current values and, you know, it shows you a peak though, you know, so far we were like around 240, or actually 253.
It's actually pretty cool.
Level, so.
Greg took a hammer in there and you can actually tap the side of the head while it's running and you can see it on the graph. That's pretty cool stuff.
Ready for the pull?
Yeah.
All right.
First pull, we'll see what happens.
Something wasn't right.
It went off the screen as far as rich.
Okay.
It went off the screen.
So we had to abort the first run. It was pig rich. So in the morning, I'm gonna come back and we're gonna pull a ton of jet out of this thing in the main circuit. It probably needs at least 4 to 6 numbers pulled out because it was off the chart. It was probably in the 9s, I would say.
It was very good.
Yeah, so, all right. Alright, we're back at the dyno for day 3, I guess we would want to call this. Based off of the roll-in numbers that we seen yesterday, we're way out of the ballpark as far as the torque input. So I'm checking the valve lash, going to pull a ton of jet out of the carburetors because this thing was extremely rich. Now, one thing I have noticed with Casper in the past, if I pull 4 jet sizes out of every hole, that's worth about 1 point of air-fuel ratio, thereabouts. So I've got to get to work, get this stuff dialed in so we can start making some power pulls today. Okay, so what we have done here, we've adjusted the valve lash We actually had a couple cylinders that was extremely tight, so we loosened them up. Got the last set at 19 thousandths cold across the board. We went from a 74 main jet down to a 68, and what we're going to do is just go in and do a pull repeat like yesterday to see where we're at on the air fuel. So you remember yesterday and earlier in the video when I told you that we didn't have leaks? Guess what? Another new parts failed. See that right down there? If you look right here along this weld, this is a brand new oil pan and it's leaking at the weld right there. So after this is over with, I'm gonna get in contact with Mylodon and see if we can't get something resolved on this, because yeah, no bueno right there. Okay, so we just made the first baseline pull. We're still in the low 11s, into 10s in the air-fuel ratio. And what did we do as far as power and torque on the first go-around?
574 at about 5,300 and 627 at 6,000 where we aborted the pull.
Yeah.
So we're still climbing.
Okay, so I've got to get back in there, change some more jets, and we will continue this. Another thing a tunnel ram actually wants, and you can see it in the air-fuel ratio when you're rolling into the throttle, the way these carburetors are set up, the primary opens about 40% before the secondaries do, and it will throw the air-fuel ratios off between the banks, okay? When it's in the truck, I always set it up on a 1-to-1, that way you're actually giving the engine what it wants, and you can equalize air-fuel ratio a whole lot easier that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes it kind of weird to drive because that much throttle input makes a huge difference as far as acceleration. You know?
God, this makes me love EFI so much right now, though.
You just have to. This is like a beautiful woman. And you have to.
It's an appreciation thing.
Yeah, you have to talk kindly to her. You have to persuade her to do what you want done. That's the way I view carburetors. Ultimately, the carburetor would do everything that fuel injection will. The only difference is you're the computer, and this is the most basic analog device that there is, you know? I've said that before, but do you want to invest the time and effort to make it do it? That's the catch-22 to the matter.
Well, and you have to have the experience, and unfortunately, you know, people nowadays very often want just something quick and easy,
right,
and convenient, you know. So
well, plug and play has changed this industry tremendously. You know, they want to be able to put it all together and drive it down the road and not have any kind of hiccups, you know, or. But, you know, I would have to do this if I didn't dyno this engine. I would be doing the same thing actually in the vehicle. And you talk about time consuming. I mean, I've literally spent days getting the fuel curve where I wanted it. But the end result, I had a similar setup to this with a 393, and I was getting over 16 miles to the gallon.
You still had to use some kind of O2 sensor and AFR readings though, right?
Yeah. I thought that I knew about plug readings, you know, being able to look at the color of the plug and get a basic understanding of where it was running at air-fuel ratio wise. No. It goes back to you don't know what you don't know. Like, where I thought it was really lean, it was still super fat. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Still rich.
Yep, and at this point, it's going to be what it is.
637 and climbing. Peak torque 578.
So this is our back-to-back run. Even though we leaned it out, it is still super rich, and you can see what we gained out here. It's making peak 637 horsepower and 578 foot-pounds of torque. But we're still in the 11s as far as the air-fuel ratio goes. So my next plan of attack is going to be take the bowls off the meter and block and actually plug the power valve channel restrictors, and hopefully I can find something that's the right thread count, my little carburetor doctor box over there, that we can at least get us in the ballpark. Okay, what I'm essentially doing here is I'm taking the power valve channel restrictors out, and I think these are a 63,000 size orifice, and I'm just going to put a blank hex head Allen in there to block it off, and that way I can just use the main meter and jets to get the fuel curve where we want it. So normally when you block that off, you would want to go up about 6 sizes because you're not getting any additional enrichment from these. But since we're so rich, I'm only going to go up about 2 to 3 sizes in hopes that I'm in the ballpark. This is kind of a guessing game of where we're at and where we need to be. Do you think we're making progress, Dennis?
Well, the thing is smoking, so.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah. Tony, you don't stand a chance. So we got to verify the timing was at 22 degrees base. And it's 28 total, right? That's where we have it.
Yep.
Air fuel ratio was right where we needed it to be for the most part. Ish.
Yeah.
Close enough for government work.
Right, right.
So we come out here and discovered that we were about that far, from wide open throttle. So we're going to up the timing a little bit now that we got wide open throttle and see what it does next.
Will do.
Okay, so we're just toiling over the data here, and the raw numbers as they are corrected is 674 and 586. That's where we're at right now. It seemed to peak at 7,000 RPMs, which I thought that it would do, and peak torque was at what, 5,300?
Yeah, no, actually 54.
54.
Yeah.
So it made 586 on torque.
Yeah.
So It is 7:15 on April the 8th, and we're going to call it a day. Day 4 dyno day. What's our plan of attack, Dennis?
So today we're going to try a different set of spark plugs.
Okay.
And see how it does with that. Set a new baseline. And then we're going to go ahead and screw our 4 oxygen sensors, O2 sensors, into each header, which means we have
each primary tube.
Each primary tube, correct. So we can basically measure individual AFRs for each cylinder per bank, basically.
Right.
So we switch from the one to the other.
Yeah, since now that we know that it's in a safe range at wide open throttle, now we can go to individual cylinders on one particular bank and not worry. So
right.
All right, well, let's do something. So we just made the run with the NGK plugs. No good. It actually lost a few horsepower, so put the original auto lights back in it, and now, as you can see, we have O2 sensors in these 4 primaries, and it's going to give us an idea of what's happening in each cylinder. I can tell you this: there are drastic differences in how the plugs look from cylinder to cylinder, so hopefully we can unlock some power using these O2s. Alright, Dennis, so tell us now why having oxygen sensors in every primary is so important, because what did we learn?
So we can see here very clearly that on bank 1, cylinder 1 to 4, the AFR values are basically all over the place.
Yeah.
We have the richest at 10.6 and the leanest at 13.9, which can be very dangerous because we have it at wide open throttle.
At what,
6,800, yeah.
Yeah, that is not good.
That is not good. And the funny thing is that the same cylinder reads super rich at 3,500.
Let's see if we can't find an air bleed to put in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to compensate with some jetting, but the problem is when you change a jet, it's going to change the entire curve. So I need to change a bleed to kind of tilt the curve, if that makes sense. So I got to get to work.
Go ahead.
So we're here, we just made these changes to the jetting in the individual cylinders, and we actually learned a lot. Something that I've said for a very long time: even though you get a reading in the collector, it doesn't always tell the whole story, and that was the case with this engine. As you can see here, by the O2 bungs that we pulled out, this is cylinder number 3, and look how lean cylinder 4 was. Now I know that the spark plugs are the ultimate judge, and that plug was very lean, but in the collector it was showing what, 12.7, 12.5?
Yeah, it was a fairly rich.
But what was happening, these 3 cylinders were rich, and it was overcompensating for that one cylinder. And how much did we pick up on power when we changed it?
I want to say about like 8 horsepower or something like that. Yeah.
Bringing our total figures to what?
We're now pushing a little bit more towards 680.
Yeah,
678 or something.
Yeah, 678 horsepower and 588 foot-pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So, which leaves us asking the question, where is this power? We believe, since this manifold was designed for a 351 cubic inch engine, that there is simply not enough plenum volume to feed these 429 inches underneath this manifold. So what I'm going to do is order some spacers here for the carburetor, 2-inch spacers. We're going to throw the kitchen sink at it and try to see what kind of effect that has on our jetting and ultimate power output. Now I will say this, I have to give a huge shout out to Dennis here, who has been by my side the whole time, and Greg Finnegan for allowing me to do these tests. I think at this point you're just as committed on finding that 700 as I am.
And you get addicted. It is a challenge.
And so we're trying to give you the most realistic numbers that we possibly can. But more importantly, I want to show you all of the struggles and heartaches that we've been through to get to where we're at. Mm-hmm. But we're not done by far yet. You're going to see more of this in a part 2 dyno video coming up. We're going to get those spacers on it and see what kind of effect it has. So until next time, this is Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. I will catch you later. Say catch you later.
Catch you later.